Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Sneakered Life. Thank you so much for joining me today. So, we're talking about hustling to habit. What in the world am I talking about? So, listen, I got to tell you, I have fallen prey to being hustled by habit. It's summertime. And it's so hard because I not only work from home as a life coach, but my kids are out of school. So I've completely fallen prey to not getting up like I used to do. I used to get up at 5 o'clock, have my coffee, have my spiritual time, then I'd go work out. I had just this great routine, and I'm doing none of it. So we just got back from a great vacation, took the kids to DC for the week, had a fabulous time. And what I recognized is that although I loved my family time, I was desperate for routine, but I was so angry at myself. How in the world did I fall prey to old habits again? And those old habits were showing in sleeping in. My clothes aren't fitting exactly like I like them to. All of those things were pointing me in the direction of I'm being hustled by old habits, and I hated how I was feeling. I was doing too much of what I didn't want to do. I was totally being hustled by old habits. And the thing is these old habits, they serve no purpose for me, right? They don't feed my success, and they don't lead to anything that's progressive. They just lead to the same sitting around, sleeping in, too many cocktails, not working out. And then it leads to the thought process of, I'm never going to get out of this. So it was interesting. I had this thought process while I was in DC, complete frustration with being sucked into old habits. And I know how to get back to it. And I have to use, what I've done in the past and get back to it. So part of that was this morning I got up, I had my coffee, and I was like, all right, it's time for scripture. So for my faith, I opened up my Bible, and it was really interesting what I opened up to today. So regardless of your thoughts of your faith, where you stand, Paul says in Romans, I do not understand my actions. I do not do what I want, but I do the very thing that I hate. For I have the will to do what is right, but not the ability to carry it out. So in this part of scripture, he's talking about sin. But really, as I read this morning, I thought, this is those old habits, these old habits that I'm falling prey to. I don't want to do these old habits because I know they serve me no purpose. I know that I don't need a cocktail every night. It serves no purpose. I'm going to feel my clothes get tighter. I'm not going to have such great sleep. But I keep doing the things I don't want to do. But why? It's kind of like an addiction, isn't it? We get caught up fighting these old habits, trying to break these old habits, trying to stop being hustled by these old habits. And then we just kind of fall back into them, right back to those things. And we're chasing your tail, right? Constantly chasing your tail. Because you're like, no, I'm going to have a new habit. But then we're being hustled by the thought process of, I have to do this new habit. And you're just going non-stop. So I wonder if you do that. If you're constantly being hustled by habit. Maybe you tell yourself that, you're going to do this diet. I'm going to start this on Monday. You start the diet, 6 days in, you totally give up. Only to say to yourself, okay, I'm going to do it on Monday. You get to the next Monday, and then you tell yourself, you know what, I'm not really ready. So I'm just going to start the next Monday, right? Or maybe you tell yourself that, you're not going to hit snooze over and over again. You know that serves no purpose. You're just going to end up late. So you tell yourself, I'm not going to do it. So you don't hit snooze one day. But then the next day you're like, well, just once. And then the next day you hit it twice. And the next day, 3 days. And before you know it, you're in that old habit and you're running out the door late, starting your day off lousy. Or, maybe you're one of those people that you're at the office and you're that person that does all the projects. And you tell yourself, I'm going to start saying no. I'm going to start delegating. So you tell yourself, I'm going to say no. I'm going to start delegating. So you try a little bit, but you see that someone doesn't do the project like you would do. So then inevitably what happens? You start taking more and more of those projects back. You fall into being burnt out. You're right back where you started, but you just keep falling into those old habits. So why is it? Why are we always being hustled by the things that we don't want to do? Why are we constantly being hustled by that? The problem is with self. We have two selves, okay? We have our short term self and our long term self. Or we can think of it as we have our irrational self and our irrational self. So, like, for example, when I talked about the diet that you say you're going to do, you've been given everything. You have the grocery list, you have the eating plan, you did the grocery shopping, you have the workout, you have everything. So, you should just be able to do it, right? But why don't we? And it's because our irrational self jumps in and says, whoa, I don't like this. Our brain literally says, this is uncomfortable. I don't like it. I'm going to do whatever I can to avoid this discomfort, which is going back to those old habits of sitting on the couch and doing nothing. Even though rationally, we know we've got the list, we've got the workout, we've got the food plan, and we still don't do it. So our brain is fighting against us. Even with the projects at work, right? You tell yourself you're going to delegate, you're going to say no to more of these so you can really do great work on a few projects. But our irrational self steps in and says things like, well, what if I upset them if I say no? Or what if they never come to me again? Or what if I lose my worth? And so our irrational self steps in and tells us, no, you got to do it all, even though we're doing mediocre work. Here's a really good thing. I know all of this sounds bad, right? It sounds like we are just falling prey to what our brain says and that we're completely incapable of not being hustled by habit. But that's not the case. The great thing is our poor habits, they're predictable. We know what's going to happen. I know if I sit down on my couch at about 6 p.m. with a glass of my seltzer, I'm going to predictably sit there and go get another one, even though I don't need it, but I'm going to go get another one. I can predict those old habits. I can predict if I have those seltzers, too many of them, then I'm not going to sleep well, which means I'm not going to get up in the morning, which means I'm not going to work out. I can predict the poor habits, and so can you. So that's the good news. We can predict our poor habits, right? They happen all the time, and we can see what's coming. So that means then we can create a new environment based on the predictability of our poor habits. So you have to create a new environment. They call it choice architecture. Choice architecture. Basically, you build out an environment. It's just like building out your dream home, right? You're choosing what rooms or where, how many bathrooms, what tile you're putting in the bathrooms, your future, furniture, your wall colors, all of those things. You are creating a space and an environment that you know that you're going to function well in and have success in. So it's no different than that. You know your poor habits, you know your bad habits. So build an environment which gives you cues or nudges. That's what we like to call it, nudges, for you to create a new, healthier habit. So, for example, if it's, you're doing the diet and you keep doing it, over and over again, it's just like you keep talking yourself out of it. I'm going to do it this Monday, next Monday, whatever it is. Well, maybe the night before, what you do is you write down exactly what you're going to do that first thing in the morning. So maybe it's, I'm going to get up and I'm going to do a 30-second plank on the floor before I even go get a sip of coffee. Or maybe you go to bed with your workout clothes on. You see what I mean? It's nudging you towards the habit that you want to get there. With my clients, I call it the 7-second habit. The 7-second just kind of trigger. It's a triggering action or a triggering habit. Something to trigger you into working on that habit. So you need to define your environment, create a new environment. And it doesn't have to be hard. You don't literally have to create a whole new house for you to develop positive, healthy habits. Just these little nudges, these little cues. So for example, last night, I knew if I sit down with that seltzer, I'm going to have more. And then I'm going to stay up too late with my family, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But then it means I'm not going to sleep well. And then I'm not going to work out. And then I'm not going to do all of these things. It's just a cascading effect. So last night, what I did is I bought some of the seltzer water, not the alcohol. Poured it in my same little wine glass and enjoyed it. Sat in that same place on the couch. But here's the thing. I went to bed at a different time. I slept awesome. And I woke up this morning re-energized, revitalized, and did all of those habits that I knew I was missing, that I was craving for while I was on vacation. And it felt so good. And all I did was bought a different product to put into my fridge. What can you do in your environment to help you, nudge you in the direction of those habits that you're trying to overcome by creating healthier habits? We all know we do the things we don't want to do, but we want to do other things, right? So we have to create an environment that's different. Does it mean you take something out of your environment, like I did with my alcohol seltzers? Does it mean that you make it difficult for you to reach out to those old habits? So, if it's your diet, taking out those things out of the house that you know you're going to fall prey to, filling your house with the things that are great and nourishing to your body. Maybe it's about those projects at work. What can you do in that environment to create a different environment to help you be more successful in creating a healthy habit of delegation and not taking on so many tasks? Maybe you find a coworker you can trust and just say, listen, I'm doing too much. So I'm going to ask for your help. I'm going to ask for your help, maybe a little nod, a little wink to remind me I don't need to take on every single task. There's a lot of different things that we can do to redesign our environment so we're not hustled by our habits. So you're going to change your architecture, choice architecture in your life, create a new environment. Then you're going to tell the world. You're going to tell those people that you absolutely trust. Because listen, no one likes to think that they're not being successful and people are seeing them be that way. We are, humans. By nature, we want to be seen. We want to be around others. So what does that look like? You talk to a coworker that helps you keep on task. Or maybe it's something as simple as putting a chart up on the wall so people see what you're doing. Maybe you're not explaining exactly what you're doing, but they can see, wow, they're doing something and they're keeping themselves on task. Just by simply allowing others to see what you are working on is going to propel you in working harder because we like to be seen. We like to be seen as being successful individuals. So tell the world, set up some sort of accountability system. Here's the other thing I want you to do. I want you to work with rather than against your nature. Listen, too many times, so many of us, we're stuck in these habits, right? And we tell ourselves that you have to completely reinvent yourself. And what happens? It falls to the wayside. Maybe you can do it for a couple weeks, maybe a couple months, but inevitably you're exhausted. And it's because you're working against your true nature rather than working with it. So listen, we all have strengths. Every one of us has strengths. You need to identify those. It's about identifying those strengths and using them and growing them rather than focusing on the weaknesses or trying to completely revamp ourselves. When we're trying to revamp ourselves and create a whole new person, we spin our wheels and we're absolutely exhausted and we fail. Then we go back to those habits that are just hustling us into the negative and the things that we're trying to get out of. So, I told you I was struggling with falling into these old habits. So I looked at my strengths. I thought, okay, I've got to go back to what are my strengths? And I did this. I really did this when we got home from vacation because I just felt this pull of I'm just stuck. I got to get out of this. I don't like how I feel. What I know about me, my strengths, is I'm a high achiever. So that means I'm completely driven by tasks and challenges. I love them. I love a task list. I love writing out my to-do list and marking things off every day. It makes me feel so good. I also know that I'm highly strategic. I love evaluating processes and coming up with different ways to go about things. I like to evaluate possibilities. I like to be innovative. And so I can create other paths. So I know these are my two really high strengths. The problem is that I know as a high achiever that I get frustrated sometimes if I feel like I'm just not doing something, that I'm not doing enough. And so then I add more to my plate. That's not helping anything. I simply need to break down my nature into smaller parts. Smaller parts are going to help me have success. The nudges, I'm recreating my environment by using my strengths, not focusing on what my failures are right now. Because I have a lot. If I focus on my failures right now, I'm not going to focus on those strengths. So I'm going to focus on my strength. So I'm a high achiever. I'm going to create a list of to-dos every night before I go to bed for the next day, 3 to 5, no more than that. Then I'm going to have my monthly checklist. These are the things I want to hit this month, and that's going to feed my bigger goals. I'm going to be strategic, so I'm able to see different possibilities and processes. For example, I had enrolled in a different program. I was all set for the program, and some things inevitably came up with family, and I couldn't do it. So I could be frustrated and think, oh, I'm never going to get there. I'm not going to do it. Or what I did instead is I looked at it strategically and thought, what can I do to work around this? What can I do? How can I invest in somewhere else that's going to feed the path that I'm on and that I want to go to in a lesser way? And it's still getting me there, maybe just slower. And that's what I did. So if you could see, maybe I can show this to you guys. I'll show you just briefly. That's what I do. For me, what I do is I have all these sticky notes on my mirror because this is my office. I'm here every single day. And I am reminding myself, you are an achiever. These are the things you do. You're strategic. You act. You strategize. You're deliberate. You can learn. So I put those all on my mirror. And then I also have my daily tasks on this mirror. And this is a reminder not only for myself, for my husband when he walks by, what's this sticky note about? Or even my kids who come in and say, hey, Mom, what's catalyst? What does catalyst mean? It creates a conversation. If you don't want to create a conversation in your workplace, that's fine. But people are going to see this, and it creates an action inside of you. I'm breaking down my strengths into smaller steps to ensure that I can keep moving forward, keep nudging myself towards those new habits, new thought processes, and new mindsets. So what are your strengths? Have you thought about that? How can you utilize them? How can you use them in creating and sustaining new habits rather than being hustled by the old ones? And here's the other thing. Who's someone who has a habit or, a strength that you really admire? Talk to them. Loop them in what you're trying to achieve. So in business, a lot of times, many people fall prey to the not invented here syndrome, right? So when I was talking about someone that might not be able to delegate tasks or they take on so many, a lot of times it can come from a place of, I have to do it. It's only right if I came up with it. And so they get stuck in this belief that it's only right, it only done well if they came up with it, even though someone else might have a better idea or a different process that could get there as well. So, do you want a better result or not? You need to ask yourself that. What are you willing to do? You want to sit in your old habits and just ruminate, be hustled by the habits? Or would you rather look at those strengths and move forward, loop other people in, create a new environment, create those nudges, create accountability? So think about that. What results do you want? Do you want to focus on your weaknesses or your strengths? You should use your strengths. Listen, if you have a strong belief in yourself, that's amazing. So take time. Take time to evaluate how you're using your strong sense of belief. Are you balancing the demands of work and personal life? Are other people or activities in your life being shoved to the wayside at the expense of your professional life? If yes, maybe partner with someone that can help you, give you a different perspective. Someone with a futuristic view would really help you. They're going to open your eyes and breathe new life into the thought process and provide you with the direction that your beliefs may not have ever gone down. You don't have to believe to your core everything, but you can accept and adopt some other people's ideas to help you recreate an environment, create an architecture of choice. So find your beliefs. Where are your beliefs? And lastly, keep discovering. Habits can hustle us. They really can. They come back all the time. They hustle us nonstop. So you need to continue on a path of self-discovery more and more. The way for you to, develop a new sense of self, develop these new habits, develop these superpowers of creating new habits and new environments is through self-discovery. You harness your true nature. You need to look at your strengths rather than trying to reinvent yourself and just overcome a weakness. We all have them. So let's focus on building up that strength so that weakness becomes smaller and smaller. Find someone who can help you discover. So maybe that's an author, maybe it's a podcast, a blog, or someone like me, a life coach. Someone who gives you the tools to help you work with your true nature, to work with your strengths. I give the tools for you to develop a path, for you to walk down. I'm not going to tell you how to get there because you're not truly going to have buy-in. You need someone that helps you with the tools to help just see the different viewpoints, much like someone that has really strong belief, but they need someone with a more futuristic perspective. Or someone like me. I'm a high achiever and I get wrapped up when I can't go with the flow. So I need to find someone more like that. It's a balance. It's a balance. So if you're looking for someone that will help you in discovering how to stop being hustled by habits, creating a new environment, being an architect, creating an architecture of choice, I can help you do that. And right now, I have a Discover Independence program. I'm really excited. I have a 6-week discovery program. This is a 6-week program that's absolutely mandatory for any of my clients to move further in our relationship. In this program, it's amazing. It's a life coaching program that works with you identifying your values and your beliefs and how those feed into your goals. I think a lot of times we have goals, don't we? We have goals. We think that it's the way we want things to be. But when we start really digging into our values and beliefs, we recognize, gosh, that goal came from what mom and dad told me to do. So that's why we dig into those values and those beliefs. And right now, it's $100 off right up to 4th of July. Finding your independence, discovering your independence. You can be independent. You can, not fall prey to those hustling habits. You don't have to be dependent on that poor sense of self or those old habits that seem to keep you behind. You can't ever reach those goals. You can't start that diet on Monday. You can't seem to say no at work. You can't seem to stop hitting the snooze button. This program is going to help you. And I'm there to help you and coach you along the way. So if you're interested in the 6-week discovery program, right now it's $100 off until July 4th. I would love to coach you. So head on over to piperharris.net for more information, or you can simply send me a message at piperharris.net. So thank you so much for joining me today with Sneakered Life, a life that you can create that's going to drive, empower, excite, and motivate you. That's what I want for you. I want you to walk in your own confidence. What does that look like for you? What do you want to achieve? I can help you get there. So thanks again, everybody, for joining me, and I will be talking to everyone real soon.